Well, welcome to Talent Month again. Thank you for joining us. And I'm joined today by two wonderful men from RKD, Mark O'Neill and James Brady. Mark and James, thank you for joining me.
Cheers for having us.
How you doing, Garrry?
Yeah. How did you end up in Waterford on this call working for RKD?
Well, I suppose I started off in Waterford as well as ended up there. I was in WIT, and coming out of there, I was lucky enough to start in RKD about 2 weeks after I got my degree. At the time, the big business was up in Dublin, so we moved straight up there. Didn't really know what I was in for, I suppose, Garrry, but kind of straight off the bat, I was straight into the data center world. It was flying at the time, or at least it was starting to get hot at the time. And a lot of the graduates, I suppose, who were coming out of college at the time had qualifications in the BIM side of things and the technical side of things. So we were kind of ready-made for what was to come in the data center business. So I ended up in Dublin for quite a long time. I think about 7-8 years in RKD, up in Dublin in the various Dublin offices. And then when the big C came in, whatever it was, 3 years ago now, when COVID came in, I suppose we all had the opportunity to change around, and we have a nice office down here in Waterford as well that mostly deals in healthcare. But I suppose I'm the blow-in now. I managed to come down here, and
so you were like a home in Pigeon.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
You found your way home. James,
so
have you got such a story, or did you just move across the road or something?
No. Well, I'm kind of based out in Blanchardstown, but I work in the RKD main office in Northumberland Road. But yeah, similarly enough to Mark, like, you know, I did architectural technology in Dublin Institute of Technology. So, well, formerly that, it's now TUD, but kind of showing my age here. But yeah, no, it's
okay. I'm on this call. You can't be old. Yeah. You can't be old. I'm on it. It's okay.
Like what Mark was saying, we were kind of ready-made, kind of you're kind of pre-packaged deal for getting ready and involved into kind of mission critical stuff. Like when I started, similar enough story to Mark. Like it was literally, you know, a couple of days out of college and I was in the door. But for me, the kind of the first job that I worked on was life sciences and laboratories, and I did a lot of kind of work in that and pharmaceuticals, and then naturally my kind of career progressed and gravitated towards data centers, because largely, like, you know, the skills and you know, operations and the kind of personal skill set that one has to have in order to work within you know, the kind of data center sphere would be transferable from that. But from working on data centers, you know, it's been a completely different ball game, and you know, it's a kind of rich and interesting career. And I'm not saying this as some kind of you know, sales pitch or whatever. Like genuinely, no 2 days are the same. Something changes pretty much, you know, day to day, week to week, and you know,
it's like when you get a new child.
Exactly. Yeah, it
no
keeps
2
it fresh.
days are ever the same.
Yeah, it keeps it fresh. So yeah.
Did you know that you wanted to be an architect from a young age?
No. Which was a strange thing. Like I had interest in it when I was like a teenager. But what happened was when I was leaving school, it was kind of like peak recession, and you know, everyone was selling the kind of the golden cow that was science at the time.
Right.
And everyone was encouraged to do science courses, and I was working away, kind of aiming towards that, and at much to the behest of, like, you know, my kind of tutor group teachers in school, and my
was your aptitude
well, that was the thing. That's where I'm going. Yeah, like pretty much to the behest of that. Like, and you know, my engineering teachers and my my career guidance counselors and all were all saying to me, it's like, you have a natural aptitude to go towards like kind of construction and engineering. Like what are you thinking about doing? And I was like, oh well, I'm going to do science like everyone else. And basically what happened was, the year that I was leaving school, there was a massive points inflation, and all the science courses shot up to like basically be the same kind of like kind of points grade as medicine and stuff like that. So needless to say, I didn't get the course that I want. I did a year of science, didn't really take to it, and I kind of spent that year just kind of researching myself, what kind of career would I want to get into. And then I went in and went to Bolton Street And after that year, and I never look back. It's been like it was a fulfilling kind of course to do. And then since day one, when I started with RKD, the guys are great to work with. They're a really good kind of supportive team. And again, I haven't looked back since. So it was something. I'm not going to say that it was something that I started off wanting to do. I had my kind of inclinations, but I don't want to say I fell into it either. It's like it was just something that I naturally gravitated towards.
But it's interesting. It's interesting the different paths, because there'll be a lot of people, and some may even be listening to this, that have sons and daughters at home that are didn't get what they wanted to. And it's amazing. There's very few people that I ever meet that actually says that's what I wanted to be, and it's a straight line. It tends to be jagged, or it tends to be a bit of luck. Was that your story, Mark? Or are you going to be that exception? You're going to be the guy at 15.
I'm the exception to the rule, believe it or not. Now, that's not to say I knew I would be here designing data centers, after this long. But no, I was very early gravitated towards, and not architecture as such, the technology side of it. It was the drone. I loved drone. I loved technical drone when I was younger. I loved construction studies. I loved thinking about how things went together from a very early age. So you're spot on. If I talk to all my friends, most people I know take James' route, where they think they have a path and they end up completely separate. But I'm that exception. I kind of had a very straight line, and I ended up kind of where I thought I'd be in a sense.
I'm going to ask it anyway, but an architect in 2022 and an architect back in the day of just drawings on its own right, it's a different gig you guys are involved in now, isn't it?
It's a completely different beast. We have to wear, multiple hats. I remember in college, one of my lecturers kind of imparted, like, it wasn't even, concrete knowledge in the sense of like academic sense. It was more like one of these life lessons. It's like you have to know what you don't know, and like that's probably like one of the most important things. Because we wear so many hats, like you're not just doing like designing of a building. You're checking for compliance with building regulations. You're not just kind of drawing things. You're using like really intuitive 3D software to model buildings in an insane amount of detail that like I never thought would have been the kind of detail that we go into since day one. But it's just realistically, it's just what clients look for in terms of like, facilities management and so on and so forth. And it's just the nature of the beast of how like kind of construction and AEC is gone. And
Mark, when you think about your love of the drawing and the clipping, I remember my technical drawing, the old T-square and the clips and the whole thing. How far away from that have you gone? How do you still fulfill that?
I think it is still fulfilled. It's just fulfilled in a different way than I would have expected, I suppose. Look, that day of, T-square and set square is gone, Garry, but it's been replaced with, really amazing and powerful tools that, BIM has brought along. And not just with BIM, but a lot of things, whether it be sustainability, all of those things. There's such great tools out there that, although it's a modernized version of what I fell in love with, I suppose, So it is still fulfilled in terms of sitting down, and you're still doing the fundamentals. We're still designing buildings. We're still drawing those. We're creating 3D models of those. I suppose it's just, we're kind of a jack of all trades more than I would have expected. Like James alluded to there, we're not just experts in our field. We are experts in the field of design and architecture, but we need to dip our toes in so many other things, be it sustainability, be it fire. We need to have great knowledge, especially in the data center world. We need to have great knowledge of electrical, mechanical, all that stuff, so that we can coordinate and collaborate with these people, to create the best project we can and to deliver the best project we can to the client.
And both of you have mentioned it there, and it's so relevant to what I'm going to say about most people in 2035. Knowledge workers are going to be working in jobs that haven't even been invented yet. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing to say, but I'd even suggest going back 10 years when you lads were going through what you're doing now, probably as a role as an architect wasn't really invented. It wasn't the way it is, because
yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So even though architecture technician is the title, what a technician in architecture does now is different. And that's what you're both saying with these tools. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, it's like it's just it really comes down to kind of training and education. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Well, like, if one is going to go into study architecture pure, that's, you know, it's like they're kind of, not that they're not technical courses, like they're deeply technical courses, but they do have more of a kind of a design focus on it. Whereas if someone's kind of going to study architectural technology for say, and like qualify as an architectural technologist, like you kind of have to go into that with the knowledge that it's an incredibly technically led kind of course.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much all about construction technology, building technology, and then, as Mark was like kind of alluding to there, like, you know, sustainability, fire safety design, different things like that. But both lead on to a very kind of interesting career. Both work hand in hand together, working and realizing kind of concepts and jobs. So like both kind of complement each other. But again, it really just comes down to the person. Like, what are your own kind of personal aptitudes and what you'd like to do, you know?
And when you think about it, Mark, both of you have mentioned so many times sustainability. Is that with respect to embedded carbon and lifelong carbon? And I mean, what everywhere I go, every job now seems to have, from, you know, sustainability by design is something that's starting now to come into the fore. And is it a big thing? Is it, our clients?
It's absolutely a big thing. It's absolutely a big thing in all construction areas now at the moment. But I think, especially in data centers, I suppose a bad rap that data centers are getting at the minute is that the resources that they use, all that sort of thing. And so, you know, what we do is we work very hard to try and make sure that the projects, we take care of them with sustainability. We have some very talented people in the office who run the lead section, which they look at all areas of sustainability and how we can incorporate them into the project. And it can be very interesting. It's not as simple as just putting a PV panel on a roof.
Yeah.
It's about using, you know, the site, using the area to try and get the most we can get out of it. It could be simple things, creating kind of green areas outside, nice areas for staff. If we need something like attenuation ponds, don't just have a tank, create a feature out of it, have it so that it can be ecological, you know, these sort of things. It is very important. It's the future. It's the future in all aspects of construction. And I think particularly in data centers is very important.
Yeah. Just to kind of touch on what Mark was saying as well, like, you know, especially with the kind of lead aspect, and just tying it in with data centers, you know, like a lot of the clients are that would, like, you know, deal with the construction and development of hyperscale facilities. Like a lot of them are multinationals, and they kind of anchor themselves on the LEED certification, which is leadership in energy efficient design, for those who don't know. And that kind of originated in the United States. But now, not knocking it, because like for years people have been kind of asking for it, and they've been certifying buildings against it, and it's been great. But like up until recently, I'd say it was kind of like, without sounding too crude, it was like just a bit of a pat on the back. Look, we got this, like, you know, building, and it's like, you know, it's energy efficient and it's great and it's green. But now we're kind of all coming to realize the importance of it. You know, that and especially kind of with a focus on the what Mark was saying with the data center industry. Like, you know, the data center industry is a bit of a bugbear for some people at the moment, but you know, it's kind of professionals like us engaging with clients who are more than willing to do this. Like, you know, as Mark was saying, design the building in such a way, like in terms of, you know, how it's orientated on site, all the way down to, like, you know, the selection of ethical materials that come with, like, you know, EPD certification and environmental certificates and stuff like that. And it's so important now for us to kind of lead this innovation, let's say, and drive this kind of push for sustainability, because now more than ever it's a kind of really becoming a thing.
What we saying?
That goes back, sorry for cutting across you, Garry. It does go back to something you mentioned earlier about people taking different paths. And things like sustainability, like I mentioned, we have our own team who kind of deal solely with that. Someone who maybe has an interest in architecture or engineering and gets into that field may find that over time they get attracted to sustainability, and there's a whole new genre there for them, you know, that
it was actually the place. You didn't cut across me at all, because it was exactly the question I was asking. That thinking was that at a period of time in the past, you could become a better draftsman or a faster draftsman or a master draftsman. But now you basically could become the BIM or the digital twin or the scope 1, 2, and 3 sustainable, which all feeds in. Final question, and it's always a good one. It's all about teamwork, isn't it? With COVID and with working from home and with all the, you know, remote working and stuff, I guess you're finding that more and more, is it, that it's all about teamwork and passing batons? And how do you get over that? Or do you have to get over it?
Well, initially, like kind of remote working wasn't too much of a shock for myself, because previously I'd been working with teams in Belgium and in the Netherlands, kind of working on different mission critical projects. So I was used to the kind of whole working anywhere in the world to realize kind of projects and collaborate with teams. But the thing about working from home is it made me kind of appreciate more face-to-face you know, collaboration with people, which I know sounds a bit old-fashioned, but like, you know, like as great as like these, you know, these tools that we use today, like, you know, like energy modeling software or BIM kind of drafting tools and different things like that. Nothing quite beats, you know, sitting around a table and getting the red pen out and, you know, marking up a plan or whatever. But yeah, it's like, if anything, like the kind of between like the pandemic and the restrictions, that probably enforced the importance and kind of necessity within kind of workplace culture for collaboration.
And would you have even considered, for instance, Mark, going back to Waterford, would you? Before the enforced.
Prior COVID, no, it absolutely was not. It wasn't in the thought process at all. And even during COVID, it took a long time to kind of light bulb to go off, you know? Like, oh, right, we're working here for the last year and a half. And look at, like James said, it was always better to go to site, always better to meet a client. Always better to meet an engineer face to face, work out solutions together. But I suppose we learned as a society that it is possible. We're lucky we're, you know, it's 2022. We're able to talk to each other here miles away, you know. I don't know what would have happened 30 years ago, you know, if that had happened to the construction industry. I think it would have been a very dark place if COVID had come down.
I think you know, you bring up a thing, and we don't want to labor it, but the irony of everything is what we're doing here is actually on a data center. And how we're communicating, and the tools that you've mentioned, from digital twins to BIM to modeling to all this type of stuff, is actually in a thing called the cloud, and the cloud lives in a data center. And it's extraordinary. Maybe it'll be another decade, guys, before people, the marketing people have done such a wonderful job marketing the cloud that people actually forgot that there's bricks and mortar down at the end of it. That's so exactly it's been great. You know what? You both come at the subject matter of being an architect, whatever that is, from two different angles. But I think the fact that we come off this call not knowing, well, I'm an architect with a specialization in this, and maybe there's 10 of them in your office, means that, can you ever get bored? If you get bored being a drafts, you can go to that section. Interesting.
You certainly never get bored in this job.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'll attest to.
No,
like that's what I was saying at the start. You know, it's like since I've came here, and I'm really not just saying this. It's been seldom that 2 days have been the same. Like if you get fed up with what you're doing, like you can always, you know, explore a different avenue and try specialize in something else that you have an interest in. So yeah, no, it's like a really kind of great and fulfilling career or you know, work path or whatever. So,
well, James, Mark, it's been fun. It's been fast. It's been furious. Hopefully you now know yourself better of what you do. Now that you've said it.
I think I'm more confused.
Well, thanks a million for your time, and
Nice talking to
it's
you.
been